Hello, Elk Grove Unified students, families, and staff. I'm XANTHI Pinkerton.
And I'm Sandeep Dosanjh, and welcome to another episode of EGU News.
Our focus on EGU News is on healthy minds, healthy learning, and healthy bodies. And we also provide you with a district, a county, and a state update. Today's episode features healthy learning. So we have two wonderful interviews with teachers that both Sandeep and I were able to do today, and what their experience with distance learning has been. So we'll hear from our teachers, or our teacher of the year, Michael Steele. He teaches math and AP calculus over at Franklin High School. And we'll also hear from Jennifer MAGEE-SUMNER, a very energetic PE teacher who teaches at Irene B. West Elementary School. So Sandeep, should we get started?
Yeah, let's definitely get started. So 2 weeks remain in the 2019-2020 school year, and students and teachers have been engaged in learning now for the past month. The Sacramento County Public Health Order remains in place until May 22nd, unless the county is able to remove restrictions early.
And the EGUSD virtual graduations will be held between June 2nd and June 5th. And the link on how to access the presentations will be provided on each high school's website, as well as on the district's website, at least the day prior to the event. And also the following Elk Grove virtual graduation link will take you to the district's press release that shows the schedule for each high school's virtual graduation time and date.
And during the last board meeting, district officials gave a presentation on phase 1 for the district's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Elk Grove Unified District and school staff are now moving into phase 2 after reviewing learnings from phase 1 and have started the preparation to plan for the beginning of the 2020-2021 school year.
That's right, Sandeep. And in fact, that presentation, it was the distance learning presentation. It was all the preparation in phase 1 for distance learning, getting the food out to students, etc. So we made sure to put that link also. Hopefully it'll be down below. And it'll also be included in the letter that we send out to the Elk Grove Unified community. So it's a great presentation. It's very thorough, and it gives a very clear picture of all the things that were happening during phase 1. So very good. The other important milestones that lie ahead include the approval of the district's budget, and then decisions on how the district will push the start button on 2020-2021 and what student learning and school operations will entail. So let's look ahead to some key dates.
Yeah, that's right. And yesterday, May 14th, the governor May revise on the state budget was released to the public. On May 19th, the scheduled Elk Grove Unified School District board meeting will occur by using Zoom. And on Friday, May 29th, is the last day of school for all of our schools within the Elk Grove Unified School District. That's 67 campuses.
That's right, your favorite date. And on June 8th, it's the start of summer school for credit recovery. And then on July 16th, it's the scheduled first day for school for year-round schools. Now, what track starts? I believe it's track B, C, and D, and then A starts a little bit later, but the year-round schools will basically be starting. And then August 13th is the scheduled first day of school for traditional and modified traditional schools.
And XANTHI, the school calendar for the 2020-2021 school year is also available on our district website, which is egusd.net.
Yes. Let's move on to the county update.
Yeah, let's move on to the county update. So as of May 15th, according to the Sacramento County Department of Public Health, the number of COVID-19 confirmed cases in the county is now at 1,211, an increase of 51.
Right. And by age group, the confirmed number of COVID-19 cases are as follows. In the ages 0 through 17, there are 25. In ages 18 to 49, there are 542. And for ages 50 through 64, there are 284. And for ages 65 and over, there are 360. So 54 individuals have unfortunately now died from complications of COVID-19, and they were either 65 and older or had underlying health conditions. So that's the situation here in Sacramento.
And across California, there are now more than 73,164 total cases of COVID-19 with 3,032 deaths.
Wow.
So XANTHI, don't forget that anyone 18 years or older living in Sacramento County may get tested for COVID-19 simply by completing the screening survey online. And that website again is projectbaseline.com. Once the screener is completed, participants will be eligible for an appointment at the mobile testing site at Cal Expo. It is no longer symptom-driven appointments to be tested. This is open to anyone that registers beforehand, and it's free.
That's right, Sandeep. So as a reminder, this test site is not intended for people experiencing severe symptoms, such as severe coughs, severe shortness of breath, severe fever, or other concerning symptoms who may need more immediate medical care.
And that's another thing we need to point out, that medical care won't be provided at the testing site. So if there is something serious, you need to call your primary care doctor or go into the emergency room. So walk-ups won't be accepted, and it's only by appointment, and participants must come to their appointment in a car that has windows that do roll up in order to protect you, the patient, as well as the on-site workers.
Right. Okay, so let's transition. So for today's feature, the in-depth interviews that we were able to have, both you and I, Sandeep was able to interview one of the Elk Grove teachers, and I was able to interview the other one, and we had a great conversation.
Yeah, it was pretty inspirational to see how PE teacher Jennifer MAGEE-SUMNER is at Irene B. West Elementary School, and she's very energetic, and she had great things to say and also provided some excellent tips on things students can do to stay healthy. All right, thank you everyone. This is an EGU News in-depth report with Jennifer MAGEE-SUMNER, who is a PE teacher at Irene B. West Elementary School. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so today's discussion focuses on healthy learning, healthy minds, and healthy bodies. And Jennifer is still leading PE classes for students at Irene B. West Elementary School. So let's start with, what tips do you have for families and students to be active during the school closures?
A great question. The tips I have, honestly, the first and most important tip of all is to get your family on a routine. Getting that structure, getting that whatever normalcy you can pull back into your house during this time is of the utmost importance. Kids thrive on structure. They thrive on that routine of waking up and knowing what their day is supposed to look like. So parents who are working in the house, out of the house, they can actually structure it around their schedule to help them out. Because during this time, it's crazy. Parents are teaching, they're juggling work, they're juggling household things, responsibilities, and when that comes into play, it's stressful. And if you don't have that outline of what's to be expected day in and day out, that stress builds up, not only for adults and the parents of the family, but for the kids. And it, that anxiety flows over to the kids. So that is the biggest tip I have for keeping your mental well-being intact, is to definitely set up immediately a structure, a routine. I would even say so much as to set up lunchtime, dinner times, so that you don't skip those. Because if you get busy doing something, you kind of forget about those things because you're home. You're kind of getting so involved in what you're doing, and you kind of pass over some of those important things during the day.
Yeah, it's amazing how we take advantage of the structure of a regular school day in the school. And when we are now in distance learning, having structure is just as important, not only for the students, but also for the family unit as a whole. So
Yes.
let's focus a little bit on physical education activities. So all of our families and students don't have access to bikes or even exercise equipment to stay healthy. So what tips do you recommend for that?
So you actually don't need anything at all other than just your body weight. The exercise that I'm sending to my students on a daily basis are exercises that they don't need any equipment other than just their arms, legs, body, and their mind, because they have to be there in order to do the exercises. But I created a fun daily challenge for my students. And so every day there's a new challenge for them to do, and it requires nothing other than just them doing it. They don't even have to go outside. I do have some students that have access to the backyard, but unfortunately they don't have a lot of space. So they're very limited. And these exercises that they can do, they can roll out of bed and they can do it on the floor. They don't need a lot of room. They don't need a lot of space to be able to do this. I do encourage them to do it with a family member, which makes it a little bit easier and definitely more fun, but they don't need any equipment. And I know some kids would love to have, equipment to do some of these things, but during this time, if they were to be able to get through these routines with no equipment and just body weight, then they're doing great.
I know that a lot of students are antsy staying indoors and on their property with the shelter-in-place order. So those tips right there are very helpful. So what can parents do to help encourage or motivate their children to get up and move?
Honestly, it's making something fun for everybody. And I know with families that have such a wide range of kids and ages, it's hard. But, this is the time to take advantage of it and maybe spend some quality time with each one and it doesn't have to be a PE exercise. It can just be an activity, something that is a mental well-being activity that teaches them how to concentrate and how to calm themselves, or how to relax a little bit more if they're, a little bit high on the anxiety level. Some of these things are critical to the development of these kids during this time, to teach them how to naturally calm themselves, which in turn makes them healthier, which teaches them how to focus. And that is a PE activity, is the mindfulness, because it is a mental health, physical health for PE. So I strongly suggest parents, making sure that they take time for their kids as much as they can and doing a fun activity, something that they like, that, again, you have different age kids, so try to pull them together so it's not taking as much time, but trying to really kind of focus on something that each child likes and spending a little bit of time with them on those things.
And what other advice do you have for staying healthy during these times?
Oh, nutrition. Definitely nutrition. Nutrition's a big one right now because obviously a lot of people are not going out. They're having groceries delivered. Things are still limited on what you're able to do. But again, it comes back to the structure and the routine of trying to map out a nutritious game plan for your time at home, and even pull the kids into cooking, teaching them how to cook, teaching them how to be hands-on in the kitchen, and maybe, taking that active participation role in the family responsibilities, and really enforcing, it's important for their bodies to be fed the proper foods, and during regular times. Some of these kids who are messaging me at midnight, and saying, oh, I just ate dinner. You got to get on a structure. And, there's a lot of, with fasting going on right now, I've actually made myself available late at night for kids because it's hard. They have a really hard time to keep with their customs and try to do all these things without a routine sometimes. So it's hard, but I know that they can do it. I know these kids in the district are amazing kids, and the parents are doing an unbelievable time. with juggling everything in life. But definitely the routine and the healthy diet. I can't enforce that enough. That's very critical right now.
So Jennifer, one more question here. So as a PE teacher, your daily schedule has been thrown in a tailspin within itself. So how is it like teaching PE through distance learning? Is it hard?
It's definitely challenging in a sense that you have to take the kids' word for it. You can't physically see them do everything. So it's hard, but it's definitely, I like it. I can't say it's fun in a way as much as, because I miss my kids at school. I call on my kids. I love my kids. I love seeing them. That's why I hold as many Zoom meetings as I can to discuss things with the kids and just be there for them. So that part I absolutely miss more than anything, but I think it's a good challenge for the kids to really step it up and kind of take personal accountability for their own health and their own well-being right now. And I think it's a good change, but I'm ready to go back to see my kids and be hands-on.
Yeah, that would be great. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us. Jennifer is a PE teacher at Irene B. West Elementary School, and she provided us with some tips on healthy learning, healthy minds, and healthy bodies.
Wow, you can definitely see that she misses her students. But it's nice to hear how she's finding ways and encouraging the students to stay connected through distance learning. She even mentioned she touches base with them often and really keeps inspiring them to do their own workout, get things going, stay healthy, stay fit at home. And also,
I wouldn't mind joining one of her Zoom class meetings just to see how she does it.
Exactly. It's fascinating. So I interviewed one of our former Teachers of the Year. It's Michael Steele, and he is a teacher over at Franklin High School. He teaches math and AP calculus. And in our interview, we spoke about embracing distance learning challenges, what the strengths are of it, how he's able to work within that new environment. And he also shared such a great story about staying connected. And still gets to me. So let's listen. Hello, so I'm XANTHI Pinkerton with EGU News, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing and doing an in-depth interview with one of our most fabulous Teachers of the Year, Mr. Michael Steele. He is an AP Calculus math teacher. He teaches at Franklin High School, and he's here to share us some of the successes, the challenges, and some of the bright spots that he has been going through with his distance learning. So we're going to start with a little bit of background about Michael and kind of how he started getting into math. So Michael, give us a little bit of breakdown on what brought you to math.
First of all, thanks for having me today. It's exciting to have an opportunity to have this conversation and kind of process everything going on. It's an interesting story because I was definitely not a math person growing up, like not in the least. And even going into high school, I knew for sure I wanted to be a teacher, but I definitely wasn't thinking of a math teacher. And it wasn't until probably my junior year at Laguna Creek with Mr. Jason Richmond, where I suddenly realized that these things that I had no real inherent interest in were suddenly captivating to me. And I was determined to figure out my way through these trig identities and these problems. And he just really inspired this love of problem solving in me. And that totally shifted what my plans were for after high school and beyond. And that became my goal, was to be a math teacher like him.
Awesome. Yeah, and we've been going through a lot of problem solving in the last few weeks. And so we've transitioned from going from a brick and mortar classroom to now distance learning. So what can you tell us about what have been some of the general strategies or practices that you found to be successful during distance learning?
Yeah, challenge is a great word for it. I'd say that the biggest thing that I did, my first thing was to decide on kind of a method, and I used an asynchronous method, meaning that I pre-recorded the lectures for my Calculus BC students or the problem-solving videos from other classes. And I had them ahead of time so that way students on any schedule could watch those videos where they were. When I made those videos, I made sure to try to capture as much of the feel of the classroom as possible. And it's not easy to do that because like right now, I'm just talking to a computer screen the whole time. There's no one here. And I like the audience. I like being able to respond and like feed off of what the students provide and have that natural rhythm. But I made sure that like my face was always visible. So I was always talking to my students. I made sure that if there was an opportunity to draw a little picture in the corner like I normally would, I did that. And I have my little laugh button here, and I'd press that laugh button at appropriate times for jokes. And truthfully, there are times in the classroom where no one laughs at my jokes either. So I was prepared for that, thanks to a couple of generous students. But I tried to make sure that students could maintain that feel and have that normalcy of being in a classroom and kind of talking about the math. Obviously, it looks different because they can't just lean over to their neighbor and ask a question. But at the same time, there was a sense of comfort that they had with those videos. Other than that, I did have to shift kind of the way I graded. Like we were in particular with AP Calculus on a really tight schedule because the AP exam was basically 3.5 weeks away when we resumed instruction. So I had to shift from being a kind of direct instruction and then review and test kind of person to trying to find the fastest way to give students feedback, like really timely feedback so that they could move forward and not have any conceptual errors. So I really used and took advantage of Google Classroom to leave tons of extensive private comments and make sure that they could see where their issues were so that way they were able to move forward through the curriculum and master as much as possible without the holes that we'd normally catch just in a normal lesson ourselves.
Wow. Okay. So it sounds like some of the successes are that individualized feedback, being able to respond to them even through texts, really helped. Having those asynchronous, that content developed was very helpful as a strategy. It's interesting, you know, you talk about problem solving, you know, you think of the typical classroom with students working on, you know, paper, drawing things out, figuring things out, calculating things on paper. How, just out of curiosity, how different has that been for them in terms of this environment?
Yeah, it's been interesting because I think that from a perspective of taking a step back, their work looks kind of the same. Like they're still submitting problem sets. Like mine was, I didn't have a digital resource that I could mimic the BC curriculum with. So I just was using my problem sets that I'd written. So I was still grading their feedback the same way, but I think that at the same time, it felt very different. And I did have a number of students report to me that they felt this kind of strange thing. Whereas during a normal school day in a brick and mortar classroom, they would learn they'd learn some curriculum and do some practice early on. And then a few hours later, they might begin their homework. They feel this compulsion to like really do it all in one big chunk. And then it doesn't stick the same way. So like trying to navigate even the challenges of balancing things out and diversifying your academic work over the course of the day was something else that kind of popped up.
Interesting, interesting. Okay, so let's talk about some of those challenges. How are you approaching challenges that arise?
Yeah, it can be a major challenge, especially for me learning some new systems like Google Classroom, really working with it extensively for the first time. There's a lot of times where you really get frustrated, but taking that moment to pause and kind of working through it patiently, or asking somebody, I have a colleague that's really comfortable with it, like being able to ask her what she recommends has really helped. I'd say too, the biggest thing for me has all been about like my locus of control and trying to remind myself that there are only so many things that I can control in a given situation. I mean, just this week on Tuesday, we had our AP Calculus exam, and it was with a completely new submission method. It was all based on technology. It went from 51 questions to 2 questions, and it's naturally difficult, like with so much technology in there, that things could go wrong. And I did have a number of students, great students, not having their work submitted correctly. And there's frustration at that moment, and I feel like something's gone wrong and I feel bad, but I can't control the technology. I can't control the submission system or anything like that. All I can do is remind myself to focus on what I can do, reaching out to those students and making sure they feel supported and that they know they're not alone in that, because they definitely weren't, and promising them the same resources that I would anyone, that I'll make them another practice test and that I'll support them as they get ready for the retest on June 1st. And although it doesn't fix every problem, because there's big problems we can't fix, I find that that's really helpful to keep myself grounded and focused on things that I can change rather than the things that I can't.
Okay, excellent. So locus of control is key in being able to control the situation right now. What we're working on. Very good. So, okay, let's talk about some bright spots. Can you share some bright spots or interesting, exciting stories that you've experienced throughout this process with the class, with the students, you and your teaching?
Yeah, absolutely. I will say that I think that a lot of the things that come up to my mind as like highlights or bright spots are moments when, even though we've been doing distance learning and I haven't seen most of my students in a long time, those moments that feel like the classroom, kind of those organic, like kind of silly moments that kind of pop up. Like for instance, on my attendance form, like I mentioned one day in my little fun facts story section, that I've been microwaving bread for breakfast and just like putting a slice of bread on a plate and just putting it in the microwave. And I didn't know what to call it. And so we had a little poll and they responded and tried to tell me what I should name this thing because they were insistent it is not toast. So I couldn't call it toast. And like those kinds of moments are the things that happen every day in like a spare 3 minutes or at the beginning of class. And that kind of moment was really amusing for me. And we now call it micro-wa, by the way. Other than that, I'd say that if I had like a single moment that really stands out to me the most, it was in one of our Zoom office hours that I've been doing with our calc students. And I mean, Zoom has been fantastic for that, by the way. Like we had 100 students almost at a practice test going over it and grading it afterwards, or 50 other times. But we also I just hold office hours for the students. And in the first one that we held, students had just picked up their cap and gown at school. And one of the students was wearing his cap and gown and kind of fiddling with the Zoom background to get it so it looked like Golden One. And another student suggested, hey, we should have at our next office hours, we should all wear our cap and gown. And, you know, hearing the thing, I'm like, oh, that's a silly idea, whatever. But the students were excited about it and they rallied other people and spread the message about it. And so I told them I'd wear my grad robes as well. And the next day, I think it was like a Thursday, we came together again and there they were wearing the purple. And I mean, we were still doing the same work. We were still doing the same calculus problems. We were still talking about testing procedure and some pretty dry stuff at times, but they were sharing that moment together. And it was a really special one to kind of acknowledge together as a group that they're hurting a little bit about losing that ceremony, or at least not having it on the same schedule they expected. But at the same time, they were comfortable coming together and sharing in a moment that did feel special. And it felt special to me. It still does. So I think that was a cool moment to honor the resilience of some super intelligent and fantastic students, but also students that were just willing to acknowledge that they were feeling something and they found a way to together share in a moment of celebration, sort of. So it was really neat to have that, the kind of thing like a sort of mini spirit day that we'd have at school any day, but that they found a way to generate from nothing, basically. So I was just really proud and honestly on tears a couple times while we were doing the calculus problems, just kind of thinking about it and seeing them in the background. But that was definitely a special moment.
Yeah, from my observations and what I've been able to watch, both from TV and just in general in the district, a lot of great teachers doing tremendous things, great things for their students. And I think the one thing that we all feel is very true to all of us is that spirit that we all get to experience in the classroom. So wonderful. Well, Michael, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I will say, like, since we talked a little bit about math and like students, like math, this isn't the natural element to learn math in. Like, I love being in the classroom where a student can just lean over to somebody and get a quick clarification and everything moves according to schedule. But I just really encourage everyone to try to maximize it and really invest in the work that they're doing now and lay some foundation. Like, I have full confidence that all of our teachers are going to go back and like make sure that everyone's taken care of when we move forward. But I think that it's good to invest in whatever you have right now and try to maximize what you can get out of it. And other than that, just be honest and ask for help. Like the same way I'm going to ask for help if I'm confused on why my Google Classroom assignment disappeared. Like, if you aren't sure what's going on with the question, ask. Like, I've seen teachers in my department jump up and text me asking about how they can film a video from their phone of a whiteboard at their kitchen table. The teachers want to help you as much as you want to learn everything. So I really encourage people to always ask for help and seek support and know that we're right there with you. Like, we're staying right there with you.
Absolutely. No, all wonderful things. And we're learning tons as teachers, as professionals, as well as the students. Students are continuing to learn. So, and I think what's fabulous in talking with you about it is that you have been able to find a way to stay connected to students. And I think that's huge. And I know all of your students really appreciate everything that you do. So Michael, we'll let you get back to the awesome teaching that you do. And I want to thank you, and EGU News thanks you very much for taking this time out of your day to talk with us and share your experiences with us.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
Wow, that was very touching. Thank you for having that conversation with Mr. Steele.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. So please stay safe and stay healthy. That's it for today's edition of EGU News. Make sure you subscribe. Click on the bell too for the notifications to us at youtube.com/Elk Grove Unified. I'm XANTHI Pinkerton.
And I'm Sandeep Dosanjh. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.